Welcome back to The Heat. As representatives from all over Africa gather for the 28th African Union Summit this week, I'm talking with CGTN Global anchor Beatrice Marshall, who is covering the event in Addis Ababa. With us from London is Kayode Ogundamisi. He is a commentator on Nigerian and international affairs. Also joining us from Beijing is Wenping. She is a professor and director of African Studies at the Chinese Academy of Social Sciences. And with us from Cairo is CGTN correspondent Adel Mahrouky. And Adel, let me start with you for this part of the program. And let's talk about security issues in Africa. Recently, the new president of the United States, Donald Trump, held a discussion with the Egyptian president, Abdel Fattah al-Sisi. They talked about how they can boost the fight against terrorism, against extremism in that part of the world. What can you tell us about that?
Well, it's definitely music to the ears of the Egyptian president, who has been calling for so long for assistance and support in the fight against ISIL in particular, and generally the radical ideology that leads usually to militant insurgency. For over 3.5 years, Egypt has been struggling in North Sinai, and the attacks are still continuing against the police and the army troops. That's from Egypt's eastern territories. From the western territories, there is the border with Libya, and that's also another major threat. So it seems that there is coordination, there is acceptance. There's definitely more talk going on between the Egyptian and the new U.S. administration, which has been quite a fade area when President Barack Obama was still in the White House. So Egypt is very eager to cooperate with Donald Trump. There seems to be the three words that Donald Trump repeated: radical Islamic terrorism is exactly what Egypt has been trying to stand against. And but how exactly this will happen, this is a critical issue. Egypt believes that it's not just a military operation to fight these terrorists, but also there has to be a solid infrastructure of education and moderate Islamic teachings. And this is what the Egyptian president has been calling for.
Okay, let's look at security on the other side of the continent, in Nigeria. Kayode, Nigeria has made some progress in its fight against Boko Haram. This has been a security challenge for Nigeria for a very long time, but in 2016, there were some gains by the Nigerians. How much of a threat does Boko Haram still pose for Nigeria?
A great deal of threat. Yeah, the current government actually made a great deal of progress. Territories have been captured. There's a release of the Chibok girls, some of the missing girls kidnapped by Boko Haram, and the ability of Boko Haram to be able to create a ground offensive has been minimized. What remains a huge threat is the fact that a lot of the fighters seem to have melted among local people. You still have the use of female suicide bombers, some as young as 10 years old, and this is becoming a great security challenge to the Nigerian government. In the field of information gathering, I don't think the capacity of the government to be able to source out Boko Haram cells within the community has increased, and this is where the government is looking at elsewhere. There's been new efforts to get weapons from outside the United States. Remember, the last administration did not deem it fit to sell arms to Nigeria based on human rights violation reports. So Boko Haram still remains a very potent threat on security challenges in Nigeria.
Wenping, of course, China has enormous economic interests in Africa, vast investments, but we know that economic trade growth is dependent on stability in a region. How is China assisting African nations with security?
Yes, China has now contributed quite a lot for maintaining Africa's peace and security. I think mainly through two channels. One is now we're supporting the UN, this multilateral peacekeeping effort. China becoming the #1, peacekeepers provider among this UN Security Council. Nowadays, we have dispatched, I think, as many as 2,000 peacekeepers, and they have been doing their job in 8 areas. For example, in South Sudan and in Darfur, and also in Mali. Last year, we lost several peacekeepers in Mali and also in South Sudan. So they sacrificed their life for maintaining the peace and security in Africa. So this is the multilateral channel. And another way is we are supporting like AU through providing equipment and also even cash support, and also help African countries to train their peacekeepers.
Right.
They can be brought in China. We have a training center not far from Beijing. And also we sent our Chinese, those peacekeepers, those trainers to African countries. So to do this joint training. So there are different ways to help African countries to maintain peace and security.
Okay, Beatrice, let's talk about the election of Donald Trump right now. He's taken office. We don't know too much about what kind of relationship he's going to have with the countries of Africa. We get some indication because his team has been circulating a questionnaire at the State Department here in Washington. And if indications of those questions are anything to go by, there are analysts here in Washington who are saying that there's a great deal of skepticism about the value of foreign aid that the United States provides to Africa, and of course the United States security interests on that continent. What's been the reaction in Africa to the election of Trump?
Well, as you rightly mentioned there, we do not know exactly what the Trump administration will focus on in Africa, and whether at all Africa will be a priority for the Donald Trump administration. But let's go back briefly, though, Anand, because a lot of people are also questioning what exactly did the Obama administration achieve in Africa, and is that exactly what will happen with the Donald Trump administration? And now, Obama himself did maintain that even Libya was one of his biggest mistakes on the African continent. So that skepticism coming from the Donald Trump administration, because there are news that Donald Trump's administration has been questioning the validity of its security interest and its support of security interest, particularly why Al-Shabaab has not been kept in check in Somalia, for instance, why the U.S. is still supporting the fight against the Joseph Kony in Uganda, for instance, and exactly what is going to happen to projects such as PEPFAR, the AIDS relief program that was initiated by Bill Clinton, what is going to happen to Power Africa, initiated by President Obama, and what is also going to happen to the $2.9 billion requested for U.S. aid global health programs and the AGOA program. So, of course, there are all these questions that Africa is asking at the moment, and it is still unclear as to exactly how much interest Donald Trump is going to have on Africa. But of course, many are also questioning how much focus did the Obama administration have on the continent, because since 2009, China has become Africa's biggest trade partner, Africa's biggest investor. And of course, many African countries now look more to China than to the United States when it comes to trade, investment, and infrastructural development.
Okay, Adel, very quickly, I've just got a little bit of time left. We're looking at some big elections coming up in Africa in 2017, Rwanda, Kenya, Liberia. Are we going to see much political change in Africa this year?
Well, the same year, by the end of 2017, basically Egypt should be preparing for its own second presidential elections. Now, it's still not clear whether the Egyptian president will continue for that. Abdel Fattah al-Sisi has said that he is willing to if the Egyptian people want him, but there isn't really any measures for that northern part to see actually what will happen. But definitely there are some interests. Will it be a change? Many think it's unlikely. The Egyptian armed forces have been maintaining quite a control over the political system in Egypt. Having President al-Sisi, a former defense minister there, makes most of the security apparatus here quite comfortable. And therefore, it's still not clear. But even if he's not continuing for another term, many are wondering who will be next, and definitely someone backed from these apparatus.
Okay, and that's where we have to leave it.